It is time to become a knight. Put on a suit of armor, find your nearest bard, you're gonna have to find a sword, learn how to ride a horse, then you're going to charge into battle, and then you're going to defeat an amazing dragon, and you're going to save the entire village. Yes, that is what you're meant to do, and you don't have a choice, and if you fail to complete this task, the world will fall into darkness. Oh, yeah, this is just a metaphor for a video that he's making. Nope, you gotta do this. I'm sorry. You don't really have much of a choice. It's very obvious now that the world is ruled by evil. And the reason why evil has succeeded is because good men have done nothing. We have become complacent. That's how evil wins. We just don't do anything. And of course, we have our excuses. We think, well, the world's going to hell in the handcart, so we might as well do nothing. Everything is about to end, and I'm just gonna sit back and try to enjoy my life, and I'm not gonna actually try to do anything to make the world a better place. And then we wonder, wow, why isn't the world a better place? Yeah, I wonder why that is. So, if you've been thinking about becoming a knight for a while, well, this is your chance. It's time. I understand the despair because I often feel it myself pretty much every day. I will turn on the news and there's another story about a school shooting, or a politician turns out to be a pervert. And every day there's even more war, and the economy is always worse. Everything is always getting worse. Do you notice that in YouTube thumbnails? X is getting worse. You have to wonder why this doomer porn is so appealing, why so many people watch it. Well, one, if it bleeds, it leads. And I think negativity always draws a crowd. But I think there's maybe an unconscious satisfaction in negativity, because it assures us that we don't have to do anything. If there is any hope, that would require that we have to actually change something. When you were young, you were told stories of knighthood and bravery, but then you become an adult and slowly those childhood stories of adventure and romance, they die. And it doesn't happen all at once, but it's something that we just sort of let happen. We let our hearts die. We resign. We accept this quiet defeat because we're faced with this overwhelming despair, this overwhelming, mundane, dull lives that we think that we're all forced to live. And that's the greatest trick, is to convince you that there is no hope. As you clearly see here, the trail is flooded, so I have to be careful. Yeah. I've felt this despair myself. It's very hard for me to believe in a better world. I guess you guys should know that I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer, and I found that it's increasingly difficult for me to write anything that's optimistic in any way, because it just doesn't feel real anymore. It just feels like I'm lying to myself. And if you look at modern TV or modern movies or modern books, assuming anyone reads those anymore, you'll notice this trend of cynicism. You know, everyone is morally gray. The endings are bittersweet at best. There's no real magic in anything. And I think it's kind of a sign of a culture in decline. It doesn't really know what to do with itself. It doesn't really know what to strive for, what to be. I think there's three paths that I think society is taking right now. The first one is hedonism, to indulge in mindless pleasures all day, to numb yourself, to become an addict. You wonder why things like fentanyl deaths are so high. It's because people just can't handle the world they live in anymore, and they just need to escape. And I don't blame them, because we've taken a lot of traditional supports away. Like, people don't have fulfilling jobs, they don't have families to come home to, and that can really kill someone. And it kills them in the slowest way possible. So slow that they don't even notice that they're dying. And they can't distinguish joy from indulgence. And it kills them. The second route that I see society is taking is despair. And in a way, I think this is sort of the second stage of hedonism, where you're just so numb to everything that you don't care anymore. You don't try to better yourself. You don't try to make the world a better place. And often you become very suicidal and depressed. Jeez. I really wish I wore boots now. Oof. Look how muddy my shoes are. And that's no way to live either. And I think the final route for a lot of people is extremism. It's since you're so used to that void in your heart, that pulsating void that's crying out for something meaningful, something to believe in, you find yourself captivated by these systems of thoughts that are violent, very aggressive, very angry. And then you extradite your thinking to someone else, and it becomes almost tribal. Something very primal within you awakens. That can be a very destructive force, because they think, well, if the world never loved me, why should I love the world? Why not just tear it down? And that's basically the three routes that almost every member of Homo sapiens is taking right now, at least in the Western world. Damn. Trails are really nasty around here. We've run out of hope. We don't want to believe in hope, because hope will require something of us that we don't want to give, something that we don't think we're able to give anymore. And I think that's the answer that lies in knighthood. Now, what is a knight? There's a lot of definitions for a knight. Many historians will chide and sort of shake their heads, click their tongues, and say things like, well, true knights, they weren't really noble, they were actually quite corrupt. They were never who they were actually meant to be. And there might be some truth to that. That also might just be some historical revisionism. I'm not really sure, because I'm not a historian, but I don't really think it matters. I think about, what about the archetype of knight? What about the knight that we find in fairy tales? What about the knights that inspire us to become something better? What happened to those kinds of knights? And we think, well, they were merely a mirage, something that we thought may have existed at some point, but they were never really there. You know, there's no true knights among us. It feels very unrealistic. And the problem is today is that we tend to mistake cynicism for realism. We think that, you know, that there's no real truth to any fairy tales. They're just stories we made up so kids could feel better. But why do they resonate with our souls? I think if fairy tales were just mere lies to comfort us, then they wouldn't stick with us for that long. Comforting lie is not much different from propaganda, and we all know that propaganda really isn't memorable. It only works for a brief spurt of time, but as the culture changes in like a decade or two, it becomes very obvious what it is. It doesn't really stay with us the same way fairy tales do. All great stories must tell a truth with a lie. I think there is something true about that lie. Maybe, just maybe, we can become knights. I guess the next question would be, what is knighthood? I think a knight is courageous, he is honorable, and he is chivalrous. He is kind, he is strong, but he's not a bully. He is wise, but he is not arrogant. He is loving, but he is not indulgent. I'm sure he's many more things than that too. I think it's something that we can embody, at least in the smallest of ways. I get it. You know, times are really awful right now. Things are really depressing. And it's very, very easy to give into that despair, because I feel that every day. Every day I'm on the verge of just giving in. But there's just something inside of me that just won't let go. I think perhaps whatever that is, maybe that's inside of you too. And you might think, wow, I'm a loser and I can't be a knight. And I say, yes, you can. We allow ourselves to be heroes. We allow ourselves to be villains. All of that already exists within us, that great potential for great good, but also great evil. You have to defend the defenseless. You have to find the people that cannot help themselves, and you can do everything you can to help them. You have to make sacrifices. If you want to build a better world, you know, it's going to require work on our part. Because let me tell you, no one in charge is going to give a shit about us. It's very obvious now that they're all just a bunch of selfish sociopaths, and they don't really care for the well-being of anyone. Fine, but we can. We have the ability to make at least a small impact. There is always something you can do to make the world a better place. You can always help those in need. But how can you do that? Well, I think it's the smallest acts of kindness that are actually what changes the world. It's not always grand acts of heroism. Sometimes it's just letting someone pass you in traffic. Sometimes it just means helping an old lady cross a street. Sometimes it means listening to a friend when they're really down. These small actions, they don't feel significant, but you don't know the impact that you will leave. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. I think the smallest act of kindness can have a ripple effect of good that we might not even be able to comprehend until the next life. I'm going to be honest with you. I think darker times are ahead. I think things are going to get worse until they get better. But one thing I know for certain is that if we give up hope on now, then we're going to fall into chaos and darkness because we gave up. It's this generation of men that has to step up and change the world. It's very easy to just blame all of our problems on the rich and powerful. It's very rare for people to just simply ask ourselves, what can I do to make the world a better place? I think the despair comforts us the same way a homeless man clings to the bottle that's killing him. We'd rather die a slow death than live a grander life, because that demands something of us that, again, might cause us pain. We will feel the pain of disappointment. You risk feeling pain when you ask your crush out, when you stand up to your abusive boss, when you say something that you know might get you in trouble, but you also know is true. We risk that pain. But there is no story without conflict. There is no adventure without danger. And in order to have these things that you long for, you have to take that risk. You have to take that scary first step. We're always kind of looking for like a Gandalf to pull us onto a grand adventure. But you kind of have to be your own Gandalf sometimes. You have to be the one that just steps outside and does something with your life. Again, we're not responsible for all of the pain and suffering in the world, but we do have a responsibility to do something about it. And I'm telling you this right now, and I know this is true. There is at least something you can do to make the world a better place. Imagine if 1 million of us just decided to do one kind act today, no matter how small, no matter how insignificant. What kind of impact do you think that would leave? I think an impact like that could change the world in a single day. My point is, we have to have courage. We have to have strength. And, like I said, tough times are ahead. We're going to have to work together if we want to survive. But I think something beautiful might emerge out of all of this pain. There might be something better for us than doom scrolling and 9-to-5 jobs. And part of the reason why I'm making this video is that I feel a lot of that despair myself right now. I recently just lost my job, and I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried about what the future might bring. It appears that I can't go down this trail. There's too many brambles. I don't know where I'm going, and I'm scared. And I'm really just trying to do the best with what I can. So I decided, if I just make this video and that video encourages someone, even if I don't go viral, even if I'm forgotten by the algorithm, if I can just help one person, I'm going to be fine. I get it, life is hard. And we have to make room for ourselves sometimes to recover, to rest, to enjoy the small pleasures of life that it offers us, like this beautiful walk that I'm on right now in this very nice little spring forest. What I'm saying is that I get it, but please, just don't give up, at least not for today. I ask that you just try to be a knight for one day, and I'll guarantee you something good will come of it. Let me hear what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think knighthood means? How do you think we can make the world a better place? There is one rule, of course. No despair is allowed, no doomer posting. You must be hopeful. I hope you all have a great day. I know this video is very rambly, and I hope I'm making sense. If not, I suppose it's better to be a lunatic on the side of good than a genius on the side of evil. At least that's where I hope I am. With that out of the way, God bless you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hear from you soon.